Hey everyone, welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the interior on the C8 Mid Engine Corvette. Alright guys, so we're just going to jump right into it. Our friends over at Car Scoops actually dug up some more pictures of the interior on this car and found something interesting lurking in the center console. As you can see in this picture, this car still has the Stingray badging. Now this is kind of interesting because as we know, there's been a bunch of leaks showing that odds are good one of these models is going to be called a Zora. Now, as I stated in some of my previous videos, the way GM typically releases these cars is they start with obviously the base model, then they work up to a Z06, a ZR1. Every one of their releases for a Corvette always does the same thing. It always starts small, so to speak, and ends with a bang. Now, as we know with the C7 generation, the Stingray was the base model. This is obviously not going to be any different. GM is still going to give us the Stingray model first and then work their way up. There hasn't been any real rumors or any kind of visual evidence suggesting that this model was going to be called a Stingray, but now we're actually seeing it. In the back, on what would be the waterfall of the C7, is actually showing what looks like probably a storage compartment of some kind, but it definitely has the Stingray badging on it. This is pretty interesting. Like I said, it's definitely going to be the base model, and it's not something I've seen tossed around a whole lot. So the fact that this car is still going to be a C8 mid-engine, but bear that Stingray badging, definitely interesting. Now, a couple other interesting things in this picture. We see on that same storage compartment lid, exposed carbon fiber. Definitely a nice look for sure. If you look a little bit to the side there, you'll also see exposed carbon fiber on the seats as well. When these pictures first got leaked a month or so ago, the only thing I really took away from the picture that I was satisfied with was the styling of the seats. The seats look phenomenal in this car, and I love where they're going with it. The color of the interior doesn't do a whole lot for me. I wasn't a big fan of the steering wheel, but there is a good chance the steering wheel that we get in the final production car is going to look different than this one anyway. I'm definitely happy to see what looks like very sporty, very nice looking seats, as well as some red stitching and heavy use of carbon fiber. The C7 also had a good bit of carbon fiber on the interior, right around in the seats, just like this one for the competition seats. The dash had a carbon fiber option. On the Z06 and ZR1, it also had a carbon fiber insert on the steering wheel. Definitely cool to see. I love the use of premium materials in the interior here, and odds are good they're going to continue the trend with carbon fiber, aluminum, and leather. That's really going to keep the interior feeling premium and really put it into that quote-unquote supercar territory. So this is the point number one. Odds are good. The base model of this car is going to be a Stingray. We're seeing the logo right there in the center console. While I have no problem with that, it is definitely interesting to see, considering no one's really mentioned anything about that before. Now, the mid-engine Corvette forum.com got a hold of this information, like I said, from carscoops.com. They've gone ahead and talked about it in their own way and given their own little twist on it. And they go on to say that some people might be disappointed that this car is not going to be called a Zora. I never actually thought that the first iteration of this car would carry the Zora name. I figured the ZR1 equivalent would probably have that. It makes sense considering the ZR1 was obviously named after Zora sort of by itself. So to carry the Zora name on the top dog model makes way more sense than releasing this car as a Zora right off the bat. Now, of course, with that said, there's no guarantee any of these models are going to be called a Zora, and at this point, the only model I can guarantee is going to be called a Stingray is the first iteration, because we're seeing it here in pictures. Over at the mid-engine Corvette forum.com, they go on to say that there was a Z button that was on the left side of the steering wheel. I don't recall ever seeing this, and I couldn't even see it in the pictures that they were showing, but apparently there was actually a Z engraved in the button on the left of the steering wheel in that silver side. They go on to say that they feel like it could be similar to the BMW's M button, and obviously in this case the Z would stand for Zora. So there is a good chance that one of these cars will be called a Zora, and that Z may actually even stand for that. Of course, it could also stand for Z06, ZR1, or Z51, but time will tell. And as always, guys, with any of this information, I'm going to link everything right down below in the description. All of the information pulled from the midenginecorvetteforum.com and carscoops.com will be linked down below, so definitely check it out. Like I've said before, these places are great with knowledge, especially about the C8. So head over there, check them out if you want any kind of further information on this topic. And now, secondly, we're going to talk about CORVETTE Corvette. I'm sure by now you guys all seen CORVETTE is taking pre-orders for the C8 Corvette. Of course, this is awesome. I love the fact that you can pre-order this car, but my only concern with it is that CORVETTE is offering to take these pre-orders with a $1,000 deposit. Now, that really doesn't sit well with me because I feel like even though that $1,000 is definitely refundable, of course, you're basically handing $1,000 to a dealership for them to earn interest off of, etc., all while not necessarily guaranteeing you get the car on launch day. Now, after talking to one of my good friends, Mike, over at Brink of Speed, there are other dealerships out there that will allow you to put your name on a pre-order list without any kind of deposit. I have much more faith in a place like that than someone who would actively take your money and sit on it for what could be years. There are a lot of people on the Corvette forum that have had a mid-engine Corvette on order from a dealer for years. So they have literally given money to a dealership that they have been able to just take, put into an account, and earn interest off of for years. I don't like that idea, especially since there is nothing official about this car yet. GM has not come out and said that this car even exists, let alone when it will be announced, what it's going to look like, what engine options it has. Everything we know about this car right now is all speculation and rumors. There is nothing official from GM. I do, however, like the fact that they would allow you to get the car pre-ordered without a deposit of any kind. Now, for those of you out there who don't really care about that kind of thing, definitely check out CORVETTE Corvette. You can obviously pre-order it there for a $1,000 deposit, of which is refundable if you change your mind or don't like the car when it comes out. Like I said, this is a personal opinion. I'm really not overly pleased with the idea of giving money to somebody to pre-order a product that hasn't even been officially confirmed. But like I said, that's just me. Now that's going to kind of segue into point number 3. Again, over at the midenginecorvetteforum.com, there is actually a thread started right now talking about different dealerships that are gonna allow you to buy the mid-engine Corvette at MSRP. I think this is amazing. I think this is fantastic. There is so much evidence out there that tells me you're not going to get this car at MSRP, and some of these dealerships are guaranteeing you that you will. So I'm going to put that link again in the description below. So if you're interested in buying this car at launch day, I would check these dealerships out first because they're going to allow you to get it for MSRP, or so they say. And lastly, for those of you who are really following the C8 Corvette heavily, you know Autoline just had a video on YouTube yesterday that talked a lot about different aspects of the C8, one of them being the pricing. They reiterated that the C8 is likely to be between $60,000 and $70,000 to start, something similar to what Bob Lutz said originally, again on the Autoline channel. He talked about how the C8 was going to be around $5,000 more per equivalent C7 model. So we're right around that same price again here with Autoline. This was Don Sherman talking about the pricing this time. And it's still interesting to see and hear more people talking about this that are a little closer to the topic than your average Joe. Another interesting topic that they touched on was how many parts would carry over from a previous generation Corvette to the new C8. And that is 1. Don Sherman touched on it again. There is 1 part that carries over, but the 2 people that were talking about it don't know what part that is. So if you remember back in the day when the C7 first came out, I can remember Taj actually sitting in the car talking to one of the YouTube reporters about the same kind of thing. How many parts carried over from the C6 to the C7? And I seem to remember it was somewhere around 3 or 4 on the interior. One of which I can remember right off the top of my head was the latch for the targa top. It's definitely interesting to see because I would much prefer nothing carry over, literally design the car from the ground up. That way we are getting a completely redesigned car and there's guarantee that there is nothing shared between them aside from something as simple as a latch I'd be okay with. But if they're carrying over multiple pieces, then you know there isn't really a huge redesign and the interior quality may not be up to par. I'm hoping to see a massive bump in interior quality, I was very pleased with the interior quality on the C7 over the C6. And if there's that much of a leap again from the C7 to the C8, I'm definitely pumped. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comments section down below. Like I said, I'm going to put all the links of everything we talked about today in the description as well, so definitely feel free to check that stuff out. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. If you haven't yet, I'd love to have you as part of the Horsepower Obsessed community. And as always, guys, I'm going to catch you in the next one.